Here's something that I probably don't talk about with clients often enough. Stopping work, the being retired, the thing you've been working towards for years can actually be bad for your body, for your physical health. And probably don't say it because number one, I don't feel qualified, and number one, I really don't want to kill the mood. But there is an important point to make. Understanding what work and the habits that you got into when you're working had as a positive impact to your physical health without you realizing is a really important thing to do. And filling that gap, deliberately replacing what work gave you in terms of physical health is important to think about. Because here's the paradox. You're going to have more time to yourself in the next chapter of your life. More rest, more freedom, more of the hedonistic stuff you're going to really enjoy, more of the good life. And yet research found that retirement is consistently linked to decline in physical function, increased chronic disease, and higher mortality risk over time. That's not a reason to panic, but it is a reason to be intentional about your physical health in the next chapter of your life. And in this video, I'm going to talk all about that. Welcome to What Happens Next. Before we talk about physical health and how to optimize it post-retirement, I want to talk a little bit about the book that sits behind the channel, because I've written What Happens Next, the book designed to support you to live the best next chapter of your lives, to help you make sure you're navigating that well. Now, in the book, we explore 6 pillars of well-being. And I think one of the pillars that underlines every other conversation is physical health. Because we can have all the money in the world, and our quality of life is often impacted by our ability to think, feel, and move. It's our bodies and our minds. And today I'm going to talk about the impact of physical health and how we can make sure we make positive change and continue maintaining positive change in our physical health in the next chapter. Now, the book is coming out on the 28th of May, 2026, as I record this in a couple of weeks' time. If it's beyond that date, you can get a copy by clicking one of the links below. But also, if you're in London on the 28th of May, on the evening of the 28th of May, anywhere near St. Paul's Cathedral or the Millennium Bridge, feel free to drop into the book launch, and I'll put a note below for tickets for the launch. Also, if you haven't done so already, please click subscribe, give this video a like, and tap the notification icon. My mission with What Happens Next is to help you by sharing ideas, interviewing interesting people, giving insight about how to navigate the next chapter of your life in a way that works for you. Now I've talked about the book and what I'd like you to do to help me help more people, let's move on to the content of the video. So let's start with the evidence. And I think the evidence surprises a lot of people. We tend to assume that automatically retirement is good for our health. Less deadlines, less stress, more sleep, more time to actually focus on our physical health. It feels like a no-brainer. And for some people, they take the opportunity that retirement or the next chapter of their lives gives them and turns it into something really good for their overall health. If you've had a very physically demanding or high-stress job, retirement can bring genuine relief. If you're a sedentary at work, you actually might become more active once you have the freedom to choose what to do with your time. But the research is more complicated and more nuanced and more interesting than a simple retirement is good or bad for our health. The 2025 systematic review, I'll put a link in the comments, which looked at 19 studies published in Aging and Society, found that 12 of them consistently linked. We're on a mission with What Happens Next to help as many people as we can navigate the next chapter of their life. So I need a favour. I'd like you to visit our YouTube channel at What Happens Next Live, and we'll make sure we put a link to the YouTube channel in the comments. Enjoy the videos, like the ones that you get benefit from, but most importantly, please subscribe. We want to help as many people as we can with What Happens Next, and subscribing to our YouTube channel for free is the easiest way you can help us. Full retirement, the decline in physical function, increased disease prevalence, and a higher all-cause mortality risk over time. So that says that actually, even though retirement or the next chapter of our lives might be an opportunity to improve our physical health, in the majority of occasions, it's actually doing the opposite. And I think there's 5 reasons that people, when they stop their full-time careers, might want to consider they're losing when they're thinking about their physical health. Firstly, structured movement. Most of us move more when we're working than we realise. Even a desk job involves getting up, commuting, walking between rooms, going for lunch and popping out for a cup of coffee. Remove that structure and all of that micro movement we do in our working days often disappears. Research shows that retirees spend significantly more time sedentary than working adults. That's not because they're lazy, but because nothing is nudging them during the day to move more often. Reason number 2 is social stimulation. The workplace is a daily source of social interaction. Small talk with colleagues, quick conversations in corridors, shared lunches. These interactions aren't just a nice to have. They're a mild but regular form of physical and cognitive engagement. Lose them and we lose a sense of stimulation we're relying on. Third is the fact that our brain, when we're working, is working harder. There's bucket loads of evidence that points to the fact that people with higher cognitive engagement, they're using their brain more, tend to maintain better physical function as they age. When the intellectual demands of work disappear overnight, the body can feel the ripple effect too. Reason number 4 is purpose and motivation. I think this one's underrated. Work, even rubbish, imperfect, stressful work, gives us a reason to get up, a reason to get dressed, and a reason to get going. Without that, the morning routine softens. And actually, having freedom to not have that strict morning routine might be a good thing. But we do need to consider the impact on our physical activity, because physical activity becomes optional rather than habitual. And it's a surprisingly short slide unless we focus on it, from I'll exercise later to I don't really exercise anymore. Number 5 is the complete loss of routine. Human bodies love routine. Even though we want more freedom in the next chapter of our lives, not in that dry, actually we also need to get the balance right between freedom and routine. Regular sleep patterns, regular meal times, regular activity, all of these support physical health. Retirement removes the external scaffold that maintains your routine. And if you don't build a new one intentionally, I think that has potentially a negative impact on your physical health. The good news, everything we've talked about in terms of the 5 reasons you might have a physical decline, one can do something about, and they're all replaceable. All we need to do is design something intentional that's going to support you to do that. In What Happens Next, one of the things that we always come back to is tiny experiments, small, low-stakes tests that give you real data about what's going to work for you in your life. Because the reality is, the next chapter of our lives isn't a one-size-fits-all prescription. It's working out what works for you. So I'm going to share 5 physical well-being experiments that you might want to think about to use in the next chapter of your life. Grab a pen if you can. I think these are probably worth writing down. Experiment number 1 is take a walk, a daily walk. The NHS recommends at least 150 minutes of moderate activity a week as we get older, plus strength work and balance work twice a week. But forget targets for a minute, start with this. 1 20-minute walk in your day as a non-negotiable. Make it at the same time every day, not because you feel like it, but because it's a habit. A 2025 study from Texas A&M found that just 20 minutes of exercise at least twice a week can meaningfully slow cognitive decline, the way our brain acts in older adults. Think about that. Just 20 minutes, twice a week. That's more than achievable if you're doing nothing today. The question I'd ask is, what time of day could you literally put your shoes on, go for a walk for 20 minutes and come back, and make it a habit as automatic as brushing your teeth? Now, walking is brilliant. The Blue Zones research says that a lot of the people who live the longest, happiest lives in the world have walking as part of their daily routine. But it's not the whole picture. Research consistently shows that strength training protects against muscle loss, supports bone density, and helps maintain the sort of physical independence that makes retirement, the next chapter of our lives, actually enjoyable. Things like climbing the stairs, carrying shopping, getting up from a chair without help, all the things that we need in the next chapter of our lives. UK research from the University of Manchester found that many recently retired people felt like a bit of an invisible population when it came to strength training. Not super old and frail, but not catered for a lot of the mainstream gym classes either. So you might have to get a bit more creative. Bodyweight exercises at home, YouTube, resistance bands. It doesn't require a gym membership. In actual fact, as I look down there, I've got my free weights and my dumbbell just behind me. And that's what I use to do my strength training. Experiment number 3 is stack your physical well-being with a social element. Here's the thing about physical activity and the next chapter of our lives. Research shows social accountability is one of the strongest predictors of whether we actually show up and move our bodies. One UK study found that people who exercise with others are far more likely to keep going because you don't want to let people down. So you just turn up and do it. In the world of what happens next, we call that well-being stacking. Finding something that fills our well-being buckets in multiple ways. Because if we go for a walk with somebody else, not only are we improving our social well-being, we're improving our physical well-being too. So the question I'd like to ask is, what physical activity could you do with at least one other person this month? For me, I love to play paddle tennis. And the part of the reason I do that is not only because of the physical movement, but also because I get to share it with other people. Something else you could try is sleep like you mean it. Physical activity gets all the attention, and rightly so. We've got to move our bodies. But sleep is the silent partner that makes everything else work. Retirement changes sleep patterns in a way people don't expect. Without reasons to be up at a certain time, bedtime shift, wake time shift, and sleep quality often declines. The irony of all this is that work sleep accelerates the physical decline. The retirement and having more time to do what you need to is designed to help you reverse. The fix is pretty straightforward and it's not always easy. Protect your sleep window. Keep a consistent wake-up time, even on days when you don't need to. And be wary of the slow creep of too much daytime napping that might disrupt night sleep. Experiment 5 might be to design your morning. And I'm not talking about getting up at 6 for a dip in a cold pool out your back garden. I'm talking about just being intentional about how you start your day. What gave you a morning routine, whether you like it or not? And retirement returns that time to you, but without a deliberate design of what to do with it. More time can quickly become no structure, which becomes less movement, which becomes not having the energy mid-morning. For 1 week, design your ideal morning on paper, your ideal morning, not somebody else's, before you live it. What time do you get up? What's the first thing you do to move your body? When does movement happen for you? When do you eat? The question I'd ask is, if you wrote down your current morning routine or the one you intend to have when you retire, honestly, what's the one thing you'd change? If today's insights have given you a bit of food for thought, there's an amazing quiz that we've built on the What Happens Next website. You can find it at www.whathappensnext.life/quiz. Please have a look. It's in the description. It's free to do. I'd love for you to do it so that you can get the insights you need to navigate the next chapter of your life in a way that looks successful for you. I believe underlying health is wealth. And I want to leave you with a question that sits at the heart of everything we do with the What Happens Next projects. Not how do I get healthy? That's just too big, too vague. But let's break it down into really small bite-sized chunks. If your body in retirement could feel 1% better than it does right now, more energy, more strength, more flexibility, what's the one tiny experiment you're willing to try in the next week to start moving there? I'd love for you to put that in the comments. Not a full plan, not a perfect routine, just one incremental step forward. Thank you for joining us on this video of What Happens Next. Hopefully that insight was useful. Hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you on What Happens Next. So, bye. Part of the issue we've got when we're thinking about what happens next in our lives is having the self-awareness, having the introspection to be able to think about what the gaps in our well-being are. And we're doing loads of work at the minute with What Happens Next to build solutions that are going to help you think about well-being in a nuanced way when you're thinking about how it applies to your life. One of the first things we've built that you can use today is our What Happens Next quiz. It's free to do, takes about 5 minutes, but what it will do is give you an insight into the areas of strength when it comes to your well-being and the areas you might want to improve. You can take the What Happens Next quiz at whathappensnext.life/quiz, and I hope it helps you in your journey to work out what happens next for you.